Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
There is a perception that the danger of skidding and loss of car controllability is the prerogative of exclusively winter roads. While icing is indeed a serious threat, it is by no means the only one. There is such a concept as aquaplaning, which also applies to the warm season. In regions with irregular rainfall, this is a very serious factor, forcing drivers to take certain measures to improve safety when driving on wet asphalt. Among the most effective ways to combat this phenomenon is the use of rain tires, a type of summer rubber, which is quite effective in preventing the tires from sliding on wet asphalt. Strictly speaking, any driver should have a set of such rubber in his garage. It rains in all regions, even in the Sahara. Of course, driving the entire spring and fall season on such shoes for the car is the same as wearing demi-season boots for 6 months, but in spring and fall, when dry roads are more of an exception than a rule, rain tires will be very useful. By the way, the statistics on this matter is inexorable. The accident rate on wet highways is several times higher than on dry ones. What is aquaplaning? To begin with, it is necessary to define what is understood by the term aquaplaning. The word aqua does not need translation, but what does it have to do with planing, you may ask? The fact is that when driving at high speeds on the road, soaked with rain, between the surface of the tires and the roadway is really a hydrodynamic wedge that creates the effect of lifting the tire, because of which the normal grip of the vehicle in the contact patch is lost. And this is a direct path to loss of controllability, which is dangerous even in straight-line driving, not to mention thrusting, which, incidentally, is required almost all the time, not so much because of the poor settings of the car, but because of the non-ideal geometry of the track. The only relatively effective way to combat aquaplaning is to ensure the rapid removal of excess water from the contact patch between the rubber and the road. Note that this effect occurs at speeds of about 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, but a number of factors, poor condition of suspension components, insufficient, or increased pressure in the tires, critically low tread depth, can reduce the threshold of aquaplaning to 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. There is a very high probability of skidding when entering a deep puddle. Driving skill will not be able to prevent the onset of loss of controllability. Abrupt braking is also not able to stop aquaplaning, especially on rear-wheel drive cars. What's more, even having DSC/ABS systems, complete with digital safety programs, is unlikely to help you. So where does that leave us? The arsenal of measures to help reduce the risk of driving into a ditch or into oncoming traffic is sparse. Avoiding puddles is the right tactic, but it doesn't always work. More precisely, you can bypass a vast stretch of road flooded with water only when the oncoming lane is free and the puddle itself does not occupy the entire width of the roadway. Speed reduction is an even more effective measure, but it is hardly applicable on country roads. But special rain tires will allow you not to limit yourself within reasonable limits in speed mode and not to make unnecessary maneuvers at high speed. Marking of rain tires. Currently, aqua tires are not a separate kind of car tires, unlike summer or winter rubber. For the first time, rain tires appeared not so long ago, in 1991, replenishing the range of the famous company Goodyear. Currently, the production of such rubber has mastered even domestic manufacturers, but as for the labeling, there is simply no single standard due to the lack of classification. Some manufacturers label such products with the inscription rain, others use the word aqua, and others use the image of an umbrella. But you can always distinguish rain rubber from ordinary summer rubber by the presence of wide and deep longitudinal grooves, which are not typical for ordinary tires. Usually such a groove is located in the middle of the tire, and from it go diagonal grooves, the task of which is to quickly remove a large amount of water from the contact patch. Read also, what oil is best for a car with high mileage, but you can't argue against the laws of physics. A deep track impairs the traction properties of the rubber, reducing the active contact area. As a result, acceleration and braking characteristics are impaired, and the tires themselves were faster. Since rain tires are usually low profile, the deterioration of driver comfort is another obvious disadvantage, as well as the higher cost of such a set. But is there a viable alternative to rain tires? If you live in the southern region, where the off-season period is short and the amount of precipitation is minimal, it is quite justified to use all-season rubber, sharpened for wet asphalt. Introduction of so-called active carbon black into the rubber compound. Asymmetrical tread. Shift of the tread pattern to a diagonal perspective. The presence of several longitudinal grooves. Alas, but most of the country does not fall under the above weather criteria. So rain tires are quite a justified purchase for most car owners. Now let's talk about the more down-to-earth stuff. Normal rubber has a composition that is optimally adjusted to the average road surface, and it is at maximum tread depth, i.e., in the unworn state, quite suitable for wet asphalt. But, alas, the new tire does not stay long. Intensive use of the car most unfavorably affects its ability to hold the road. Modern tires have a wear indicator, which helps to determine the moment when it is impossible to use it further. Alas, but many representatives of a huge army of motorists decide to buy only when the tires become completely bald or if the cord protrudes outward. Aquaplaning begins much earlier than the indicator of critical wear. In particular, a number of tests have shown that the tread depth of less than 8 mm is enough for the car to partially lose traction at a speed of 70 to 80 km per hour on a wet road. For millimeters and less is really dangerous. And if the depth of the pattern is less than 2 mm, then with a 5 mm layer of water, the car enters the skid at a speed of about 60 km/h. For new rubber effect is observed at speeds from 90 km/h. So rain tires can be called, if not ideal, then a very effective way to combat aquaplaning, provided you keep an eye on their condition and buy a new set as soon as one or more tires are worn out. History of rain tires. When they talk about the difference between summer rubber and rain tires, it should be clarified that the latter is a type of summer tires. So the very statement of the question is not quite right, although we understand what we are talking about. We have already talked about the characteristic features of aqua tires. It is the presence of deep and wide longitudinal grooves, and the presence of a large number of side channels designed to divert water to the sides. Of course, and purely summer variants can have similar, although not so pronounced elements of the tread pattern, so all of the above should be taken as with a certain degree of relativity. The presence of appropriate markings can help not to make a mistake, but do not rely on the assurances of consultants, their task to sell the product, especially stale. The safety of cars when driving on wet highways began to be actively discussed in the second half of the last century. The concept of aquaplaning was discussed in the 60s. In the 70s, the idea of creating car rubber that could effectively resist the water film was proposed to manufacturers, and from that moment the development of optimal tread and composition began. As it often happens, the first rain tires for cars were tested in Formula One competitions, where they were successfully tested and recognized as suitable for use. As a result, today there is no major manufacturer of car tires, which in the range of seasonal products would not have models without rain markings. Read also, what to choose between carbon and conventional cabin filter. Note that the first samples had performance characteristics that did not allow to rank such rubber as the main one. But over time, companies specializing in the production of tires managed to improve the composition by introducing active carbon black, capable of absorbing excess water, and the pattern so that better resist aquaplaning and at the same time do not significantly worsen the braking distance and wearability of the tread. The latest generations of summer rain tires are products designed for active use, for aggressive driving style. Developments are underway to reduce the noise level created by such rubber on a wet highway. And this is again a struggle at the level of compromise. Top 5 best rain tires. And yet the question of choosing rain tires is not abstract, because no one wants to buy a cat in the bag, and information on this subject in the network, to put it bluntly, not much. Therefore, we decided to give a small rating of the best rain tires, compiled on the basis of a number of specialized tests. Our top is headed by the K120 Ventus V12 tire with the Evo 2 index from Hankook. There are 4 longitudinal grooves for collecting water, and a lot of multidirectional slots for drainage, which cope with their main task very well. The model topped the rating not only because it is very effective in fighting slipping on wet roadbed, it also has excellent acoustic characteristics and practically does not complicate driving. But that's not all. Thanks to a carefully selected composition, the K120 Ventus has one of the most impressive service life among modern representatives of the Aqua tire subclass, Ultra Contact UC6, developed by Continental brand specialists specifically for use in rainy weather, was slightly behind the leader. This novelty also has an asymmetrical pattern, including 5 sides of different configurations. The central grooves are made with slightly beveled edges, which allowed to slightly reduce the braking distance compared to competitors. The number of longitudinal grooves, as in the leader of the rating, 4. In combination with the effective pattern of the other segments, a very effective drainage system is achieved, which allows not to reduce speed when passing deep and long puddles. There is also an innovative rubber compound formula that improves the tire's grip on wet asphalt. The Nokian Hakka Green tire took a respectable 3rd place. The drainage system of this rubber is represented by the same 4 central strips, which are complemented by deep transverse radial grooves located on the outermost shoulder sectors of the tire. The rubber is characterized by excellent dynamics, acceleration/braking, and environmental friendliness, reduced fuel consumption. The fins are good at this. Eagle Sport rain tires from the pioneer in this field, Goodyear, as the name implies, are designed mainly for speed enthusiasts. And here we are dealing with 4 deep longitudinal grooves, supplemented by a large number of transverse and diagonal grooves, allowing to effectively get rid of large volumes of water. An important advantage of this model is its quietness as well as good wear resistance. Cross Climate from Michelin is one of the few rain tires that belong to the all-season class, so its owners can be calm for driving on wet roads. But this tire also copes well with slightly snowy roads, providing good braking, thanks to the developed system of drainage grooves, which are directed from the center in both directions. We hope that you will draw the right conclusions from all of the above. In any case, information about rain tires will not be superfluous, even if you do not plan to purchase these products in the short term. In conclusion, selecting the right rain tires for your car is essential for ensuring safety and performance in wet conditions. Remember to consider key features such as tread design, rubber composition, and tire size, as these factors significantly impact traction and handling. Additionally, pay attention to the tire's water evacuation capabilities and noise levels for a comfortable driving experience. By making an informed choice, you can enhance your vehicle's performance and drive with confidence, no matter the weather. Thank you for watching, and drive safely.